And we're back. My apologies for the connection issues. I am in very deep southern Arizona, 20 miles south of Tucson in Green Valley, visiting my parents before I head to Columbus for USA-Mexico tomorrow. But we are not on the greatest of internet connections here, so hopefully we'll stay on. But come back in. We'd love to have you as we rebuild this Facebook Live audience. But one thing I was talking about before we got cut off is just what I'm trying to get with this podcast. It's a weekly podcast, the Planet Futbol podcast, and I like roundtable podcasts where people get together and talk about what's going on from the weekend in sports, but what I like more are in-depth interviews with people in the world of soccer and other things for that matter. And for this podcast, we're going to focus on interviewing newsmakers and intriguing people in the soccer world, both domestic and abroad, men's and women's, and people that I find interesting, and then hope you do too. But we're going to be looking for suggestions on your part. We want to serve your needs and get interesting people on the podcast. So it's going to be coming out every Tuesday. One reason I love this is I feel like these are magazine quality interviews, and as the media world has changed over time, we've seen situations where there's a lot of this soundbite stuff going on, and all the time a lot of us writers are being asked to do sort of short form things, and long form is still a good thing, and I consider these interviews to be long form interviews where you can get in deep with somebody. Bob Bradley, for example, just had a terrific interview with him the other day. He's having a hard time early on getting points as the first American to coach in the Premier League at Swansea City. But very in-depth interview, very revealing interview with Bob Bradley, who talked about all sorts of influences and coaching philosophies, and even his father, who had a Purple Heart from the Korean War, and the influence that his dad has had on Bob and his brothers. So I really enjoyed that interview, and I think you will too. This podcast is intended to provide that type of interview on a regular basis. We're going to come out on Tuesday morning every week, but also there's going to be some bonus interviews along the way. Keeping my fingers crossed for a good bonus interview tomorrow in Columbus as USA-Mexico gets closer. Tyler Jackson has a question. He asks, does Mexico have a reason to be confident this time heading into Columbus? I think they do. Aside from that 7-0 loss to Chile in the Copa America, Mexico's had a good year. They seem to be playing good soccer under Juan Carlos Osorio. I know there was the home tie not too long ago, once they were already qualified, that caused people some angst, but I think this is a good Mexico team. I think they have a chance to end the futility that they've had in Columbus over the years. But this is a U.S. team that's playing good soccer right now too, and I think Jurgen Klinsmann is pushing some right buttons as far as playing Michael Bradley in more of a defensive midfield position. I expect and hope Christian Pulisic will start in this game. I think he will. But you look at guys in form for the U.S., Josie Altidore, Bobby Wood hasn't scored as much recently, but I think that could be a potent combination. And I think, the home crowd in Columbus is always a huge benefit for the U.S. So I can't wait for Friday. I hope you feel the same way. Let's see. Chad Christopher wants me to interview David Beckham. We'll see if we can get David on here. I'd love to hear his honest thoughts about what's happening with this Miami project, and him wanting to be an owner, and we've now had more than 1,000 days pass since the original announcement, and no set plans on when this team will even be starting. More likely to be 2019 now at the earliest. Let's see. Matthew Eisen wants me to interview Eric Winalda and Alejandro Bedoya about their beef. I think they already did that themselves on Sirius XM when it happened. I thought that was kind of cool, that they were able to hash things out privately, or in this case publicly, and I thought that was a good thing. But there's a lot of interesting people out there, and I'm just going to try and provide a good cross-section of people from different areas of the soccer world. That can be the U.S. men's national team, like this week, or it can be, different types of things. That can be the U.S. women's national team. It can be MLS, as we're in the playoffs here. It can be someone like Thomas Müller from Bayern Munich, who we had on recently. So I really do hope you check out the new Relaunch Planet Futbol podcast. I'm really enjoying doing it. I feel like these are in-depth interviews that you can get on a regular basis. And that's rewarding for me as a journalist. I like learning things from people I interview, and I'm fascinated by the art of interviewing. It's never something you'll get perfect, but my hope is in these interviews always to learn something I didn't know before, to ask questions I don't know the answer to, and you hope that leads you down some interesting pathways. So I think it's going to be a fun adventure as we move forward here and do a lot of cool interviews. This is something I'm devoting a lot of time, a lot of energy to, and I'm excited about what the possibilities are going to be. A couple questions, and then I'm going to head for the day. Luke Thomas asks, where are the Timbers heading? Portland Timbers, rough season, very rough month. Not in the MLS playoffs. They're going to have to make some changes. It's pretty clear. Guys like Lucas Milano definitely on their way out. Others may be on their way out. The DUIs to Liam Ridgewell and Jay Gleason certainly not helping matters at all. Julio Ruiz suggests Jurgen Klopp as a podcast interview. The request is in. Jurgen Klopp has said he wants to do something with Sports Illustrated, so I'm excited to do something with him. An interview like that would be a lot of fun. These are always more fun in person. You can get more out of it, but we try and do everything we can to have the best interviews possible, even if we're not in the same place. An example of that's Thomas Müller from Bayern Munich recently. I enjoyed that one and appreciated the way that he was willing to do that in English, not his first language, on the phone. Take a listen to that one if you can. There's a lot of good stuff on the Planet Futbol podcast, so check it out. Thanks for listening, guys. Have a great week. Bye-bye.